City officials are expected to begin a pilot program for Boston police to wear body cameras. This follows a grassroots campaign partially inspired by the national movement Black Lives Matter. But local supporters of the initiative want to see a role in the design for the community. That was the message they took with the petition signatures to members of the Boston City Council. To tell us about the effort are the two co-organizers from the Boston Police Camera Action Team, Segun Idowu and Shekia. Scott, thank you both for being with us.
No problem. Thank you for having us.
I want to start with Segun. What's the role of the council in getting this and making sure it's done right?
Well, there's two roles, I think. The first is that as our elected officials, people that we put in office to represent our views, I think their role is to represent, or at least to tell the commissioner what it is that the people want. And what the people want is a policy that is fair to both the officer and to the community at large in place before a pilot program rolls out.
Shekia, talk about why it's important for the community to have some input here, maybe review something at an early stage?
I think it's very important for the community to have an input just to ensure that this protects everyone on both ends, not just the officers, but the citizen as well. And also, as we've seen around the nation, as people are piloting body camera programs and policies, their policies have shut the community out, have made it very hard to access the footage afterwards for the citizens. And we want to avoid that here. We want to make sure that this is something that's transparent and provides accountability on both ends.
Segun, I guess one of the things that your group has done already is that you figured there are times when you really need to have those cameras rolling, and there are other times when they should be switched off.
Yes. So, you know, there are two kinds of policies if policy exists. The first is that the cameras are on all the time, and the second is that they try to lay out specific times to put it on. When we did our research on this, we felt that it was best to go with the latter option, to have the cameras on only for specific instances, because, you know, not only for privacy concerns, but also we have nowhere to store all that data from constantly recording. But it was important to us that the privacy of the officer was protected, so that we're not covering random conversations they have with their partner or other matters that they're engaging in, but that we only capture the incidences that we are pushing for these cameras to record. So.
Shekia, one thing I've noticed being in the news business is that not everybody is comfortable with the camera rolling when you go up and have a conversation with them, especially if they don't know you very well.
Yes.
There are times when people in the community maybe they do want to talk to police, but they don't want it recorded.
Right, and so we made sure to include in our policy that if the citizen requests that you stop recording, that you have to stop recording, and then what happens after that is up to the citizen and the officer. So the officer does have to give them, like, you know, a statement telling them that they are being recorded, and the citizen does have the option to ask that it not be filmed.
Sure. What about access to the video that's recorded? Because I can see all kinds of things that look hazardous with that if you don't do that right.
Right. Now, this was an issue that we took into account and debated for a long time amongst ourselves and with people who are much better experts at this than we are. But again, this comes down to two different options that exist in the country and then what we tried to do. So there are two options, which are either all of the video is put on YouTube, as some police departments have done, and then we have departments like LA most recently came out with their policy, and this policy severely restricts the ability to obtain this footage. In fact, you would have to have a court order from a judge to get this footage, no matter what's on the video. We try to come in the middle of the road here. Our policy says that if you are the subject of the video, then you have the right to obtain that footage and do with it what you may. Since you are the one being recorded, it just made better sense to us that you should be the one that dictates what happens with that footage.
Shekia, what about the cases, and I guess maybe Segun ruled this out pretty well, but you know, there might be a case when someone's accused of a crime and they might want to see footage of somebody who maybe was a witness talking to police. Is there a way you can prevent that from being abused?
Accessing the footage or
Right,
viewing
right,
the
yeah, accessing
footage.
the footage.
So basically we tried to incorporate a third party being in control of it so that officers nor citizens have more right to see the footage than each other. And so to basically avoid something like that, we set it up so that whoever BPD chooses to go through to equip their officers with body cameras provides like a third-party storage and accessing the footage so that it's not, biased towards one or the other.
You know, one of the things also in the policy are evidentiary measures.
Yeah.
And this was, we worked a lot with the ACLU and the Harvard Black Law Student Association and Digital Fourth, the privacy group in Massachusetts. That was one issue that did come up. Again, only if you're the subject of the video can you obtain this footage. But when it comes to a case like that, that's where a court order would have to be issued for the defense to obtain that kind of footage. But there are, in our policy, there are strict measures in place to prevent you as a private citizen to get video of somebody else who is not you.
Okay. Shekia, where should this be piloted? I mean, you don't want to make it so easy that it doesn't really, it's not typical, but on the other hand, you don't want to make it so hard that the program would be sabotaged.
I think that this should be piloted in the 3 communities that have the highest complaints against officers, because there you will see if this actually helps lower complaints against officers, whether it's that they used force or abuse or harassment. And I think that's where this should be piloted in those 3 communities, to show if body cameras actually work.
Segun, looking at Boston, we have had a kind of a trial, maybe not planned as such, with video of some use of deadly force by police. A case in Roxbury, a police officer was shot, and the suspect was shot right after that and killed. Mm-hmm. And yet that video seems to have dispelled a lot of conflict over what happened there.
Absolutely, and I think cameras have proven to be an objective observer, and they capture the true nature of an incident. The thing is, though, is that we can't only rely on a random citizen walking by recording or an ATM footage or a camera on a light post capturing this kind of stuff. Equipping all of our officers with body cameras will always provide a record of incidences such as these to give the public a record of what happened to prevent any misplaced anger in those kinds of instances.
Shekia, we should mention if people want to find out more about your campaign, you've got a website they can go to?
Yes, you can go to bpcat.org, that's bpcat.org. And on our website, you can send letters to your city councilors, to your mayor, to your councilors at large. You can participate in our polls, just telling us how you feel, whether you are in support or not in support of body cameras. You can also participate in our visual petition, which is we got a bunch of videos and pictures from all over Boston of people who are in support of body cameras on BPD with a community influence policy.
Thank you both very much, Shekia Scott and Segun Idowu.
Thank you.
In a moment, a new opportunity center in Roxbury.